Hello.
Hello.
Checking if you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
That is awesome. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. And we should begin. So the last time we did that exercise using our virtual machine and Chef server, we used where was that? Let me grab that exact location where we were, and we will continue forward from that. And what I would like to do today is a little bit variation to the exercise, which will give you real life flavor of what happens when you don't have a ready-made virtual machine, like nothing with you, and you still want to do something that you may have, like this exercise is similar to that exercise, but you have no hand holding at all. Hand holding meaning things are not given ready for you to run correctly. And so when you're on your own and in the wild and doing something or trying to accomplish something, how would you deal with those situations? I will also spend some time on that scenario before we move further. So in this DevOps segment, we are currently running on that exercise and just checking if we are recording it. I think we are, but I'm not sure. So I'm checking that. Or you can confirm faster, probably.
Yeah, I see the recording dot.
Okay, awesome. So what I was talking about is this exercise that we are doing, which is primarily on deploying a complete application. That's what we did. But then at the very end, we cheated and we did not do the chef way. We just cut short to something and basically got it to working. So we did this shortcut way, which was, I need to log in. Apparently I'm not logged in. So here I log in, and then I have to type my password apparently, which I'm not used to typing. So here it goes. And this should log me in, take me straight to the WordPress dashboard and go back to my section, and refresh should take me to the exercise. So what we did here was that we were able to, am I projecting my screen or what? I'm just talking without projections. How crazy.
Yeah, I don't see the screen. There you go.
Now you should see it. So what I was talking about is this shortcut cheating method. This is not the chef way of doing things. I download from somewhere and then I run these things here. Sorry, here and here. So, and then I have the thing running, but that is not the chef way. So we would like to do this thing in the chef way also, which means we'll do the exercise again, but doing the whole exercise again, very it's actually trouble free, because all you need to do is to just run that one command, the last one. And that's what I will be doing, is to get to a point where we already are, which is to get ready to start a new machine. And so that's what I will do, is I will go to my workstation and go to the previous step. In the previous step, what we had was that we instantiated a new machine in 2 different clouds, and we then got that 2 different clouds ready and functional. And we ran this create a droplet followed by this action. That's what we did, right? This action created a DigitalOcean droplet, and the other action created a EC2 cloud droplet, image, instance, machine, some name. What do they use? Server, instance, I think. That's what Amazon calls it.
Yeah, instance.
Yeah, so various people call different things, same thing, but different names. That's sometimes a challenge for me to remember what do they call it. But this is what we have in our Chef repo, and the atom editor shows up that we have a scratchpad, which I think you have also created. I have called my scratchpad a README file. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but we have these commands that we can just now use to construct a new machine running whatever we want. So it as simply as copying that and running it our command line. That's the entirety of the exercise up till now, by the way, up to this point. So before I go any further, I want to check whether my credentials are currently working. May not be working. So we'll find out whether the credentials need an update. or I need to wake up from sleep. That's what it looks like. Okay. The credentials are, hello, not working. Okay. That means I need to update my credentials. Let us see with the other cloud. And see what happens. So that one is working. So which means I need to go to my Amazon cloud and get updated credentials, which I may have, I know I have deleted because of security reasons and because of the video got published. And so I want to create a fresh set of credentials and then proceed forward using our exercise with the Amazon cloud. Like this authentication failure is coming up simply because I have deleted my set of credentials in the knife RB file. This is stale information. And so is this. So I need to get rid of those guys. And now create a new one here. Oh, sorry. Click and here is a new one. So that's where I will get a new set of credentials. And this one apparently was, this is something wrong. Maybe I just delete it and create a new one. Who cares? So just delete and a new one. And here is the key pair. And that goes in there. And this guy goes in there. And then we close and check whether Amazon responds. Amazon should respond, and it did. Awesome. I will now close my my keys. And by the way, I need to tell you something that I did not, and that is about this key pair business. This deleting a key pair, and it's kind of very kludgy method of handling key pairs like this. That's not the proper way of doing things, by the way. I should say that very, very clearly, that this method of like deleting a key and creating a new one, this is very crude. So I will tell you about the right way to do things in a large organization. How do you do that? For that, we have a new service called IAM. This IAM service, it's not new, but it's new that I had never discussed it before. And that is something that I will be talking briefly about, which will give you a flavor about identity and access management in a large company. How do you handle with that situation? That's what I will be talking about. So this key pair business can be a little bit automated, and we don't have to copy paste things like that. So with that in our hand, I am in a position to make sure that I can check my chef server, bundle exec knife cookbook list, and bundle exec knife role list. And all these things that I have given to my chef server should be all correct. They should be correctly showing up in the chef server, because that's what I'm really examining. And they should be functioning totally no problem. But now is the time for us to instantiate new machines. And I will do that according to what we have here. But this time, what I would like to do is do a little bit of twist. And the twist is to make sure that we actually follow through and not do these things, these steps by hand, like these steps. I don't want to do them by hand. In fact, one thing I want to make sure that I take care of is to go look at this script here. And actually not this one. Go look at this script here, which is the database, WordPress setup script. And you will find this script actually does install WordPress, but it is installing a little bit older version. So for those of you who want to get the latest updated versions, you need to modify the script. You can basically refer to the 453 number as 498 number as the latest version. And that should update your script on this page, something like this. So if you have these scripts that I have written down in one location where I will be going right now, and there I will find out the WP setup script that I created. And in there, I may have my scripts. I need to go find out my scripts. And so my gists, then I search for that particular gist. And what I'm really showing you is how do you modify something, so like a different version or something like that. So here, these are my gists. I want to search them. Okay, I need to search it in a different way because searching on GitHub can be a challenge. So I'll go to Google and search my script. That should bring up, even Google is not showing me the right gist. That is crazy. Okay, let's go find another way of getting to my gist. Corey's gists, no, I want to get my gists. Okay, let's go there again and do it manually searching it now. So these are the scripts I have. That is so hard to find the script that I used. Publish, finished, publish, older. This is lame. I should be able to quickly locate, but that's how sometimes search doesn't work. And why do we need to go back that back? So here is a shortcut. Since we know that script here, the easiest way to update the script itself is to just create a new script. Like simply just create a new gist like this, new gist. Something is wrong. I'm typing, clicking, and it's showing me something else. That is wrong. My mouse. Okay, forget. I'll try a different way. This doesn't work like the way I want. Then I will try a different way. Maybe I press this. No. Huh. Interesting. Why is my mouse not clicking? Okay, something is wrong with this. I don't know what, but I need to close out certain things to get to a point where I can click on my browser. My browser is not responding to my clicks, which is crazy, really crazy. So I will start closing out things that I don't need and see if it responds in a different browser. Let's try a different browser. See if Safari browser will respond. And can I click? Yes. Okay. What about GitHub? Can I click? Can I create it? No. Is it specific to GitHub or what? Apparently so. Well, that is so crazy. Yeah, I can click here, but not there. Oh, this is hard to explain. This is Zoom causing trouble. Okay, this is Zoom problem. On a portion of my screen, apparently I cannot seem to click. So I had to report this to Zoom guys. But what I'm doing now is quickly opening up that Firefox, my preferred browser again, and going to this portion where I want to be there, like on that location. I want to create a gist containing this content with a fresh updated version. So that's what I will grab and go create a gist right there, a new gist with information that contains what I want, like this, except I don't want 453, instead I want 498. So that's, I think I'm back in business now. That was a crazy unable to click situation for some reason because of apparently Zoom was behaving. And what I'm doing right now is just updating that number 498 so that we have the correct version. And then what I'm doing is creating this public gist with the updated information and using so this is something I want you to note. You cannot just use a script as is, like you have, cannot grab that URL. That is not going to work. So we have to make a raw file and then grab that URL. That is important to remember. So whatever you do is you grab the raw URL from your gist and then use that URL in whatever you're doing. So in my example, what I will show you is I'll use the new link in place of the old link right there. And what this will do is take us in our machines to the right location where we have an updated version of 498. That was the whole thing about all this 2 minutes of me fumbling around with my clicks not working, is that I have this thing updated, which now opens up a script which contains 498, 498, and 498. And what I want to do now is to actually go forward and automate WordPress on top of the LAMP stack that we have created. So we have a LAMP stack, or rather we have a method to create a LAMP stack systematically using one command, which is that method right here. This is one of them on one cloud. This is another one. And so what I want to do is create a chef way of putting this WordPress also on top of LAMP stack, as opposed to using the cheat methods like wget and then script. That's cheating. That's not chef. That's not what I want to do, by the way. So I will not follow this approach anymore, but instead automate deployment of WordPress on top of the LAMP stack that we already have created in these steps, these two different clouds, by the way. So we'd like to understand what does these scripts do, and then use these scripts in Chef in a cookbook. And that's what I will be doing now. But before I do that, this is like net new cookbook. And so we have created only one cookbook up till now. And if you remember and recall, that cookbook was about overriding, what did we override? We had a MySQL cookbook, and we wanted to override that with your SQL cookbook. And we want to actually, in this cookbook, what we wanted to do is basically run the MySQL cookbook. There is an include recipe method of invoking this one. But before we invoke, we override certain attributes. And we change our default passwords. The default password is I like random password or something like that. So I don't want to use it. I want to use my password, which I have stored in a data bag, encrypted. And this one is the decrypted version that you see here, but the encrypted version is on Chef server. So we see that and we know that it exists. So that's what I want to override, and then put that, invoke the MySQL cookbook right here in your SQL. So that's how we did the override in the first time we created this cookbook, which is stored here in your SQL folder. So what I want to now do is show you a couple of different ways of creating cookbooks in which you can accomplish whatever you want done in the Chef way. So that's the next idea coming up. So what we want to do essentially is create two cookbooks. One is to create a cookbook to deploy WordPress software. And you know that WordPress software requires a bunch of things in place already. Like, it needs a database. It needs a user. And this database needs to be on a database server. And that server needs to be MySQL server, or other variations that will basically closely match what MySQL requires. Like, for example, you can use MariaDB, or you can use some other solutions available here. So you can use alternative solutions, but they need to be equivalent. So that server software needs to be running somewhere. And wherever it runs, you need to know the location of that server software. Where is it? And what is the DB name? DB name. You need to know that name. You need to know the user, and you need to know the password for that user. And that is the things that we need: 1, 2, 3, and 4. We need to know where the server is for the database and what's the name of the database in that server. We need to know the username and password and the location of the server. 4 things that are needed. And you cannot just magically put these things in place. I should also clarify that when you set up a database server like this one, we use the Your SQL Cookbook. So it sets up the server, specifically this server software, because of this include statement. And that gives you a MySQL server. and it has a root password with only one O or two O's, root password, and the password we chose, which was 123. So this is the username, this is the password. And these correspond to the database server itself. And you are able to log into the database server using these credentials because we tested that and we saw that and verified that. However, this is the database server. We need to create a location inside the server to store the database. It needs to have a name. And so these are the things that are also necessary to set up this database properly so that we can have a database, a user for the database, and the password for the database. And these three things are done in the other script, which is the DB setup script. So again, recap. We have a MySQL cookbook. We use your SQL cookbook to create a server by overriding using our password. And then we have a server ready. In the server, we need to have a database name with a username. You can use any name, username you like. Like in my example, the username I used is username. And the password I used is password. The location I used is localhost, because that's where the thing is running, right there on the same box, all in one box. That's the location of the database server. And the name of the database is WordPress. That's the name of the DB. This DB will be running on this server. So these are the details I need to provide to the database server so that it is ready to accept connection from the WordPress application, which is going to be the idea set up in this cookbook, which is what we need to do. So we need to basically create two cookbooks, one to deploy the WordPress software, and second to create a database and a user for WordPress. This is your user for WordPress. This is that user's password, not this. That is the database user, database server software, root user. The different passwords. One of them is root, that's the username, and the other one is well, the other name is username. That's the name of the user. So this is a user, this is a user called root, has a password called 123 and password called password. But this one applies to the MySQL server. And this one applies to a DB on this server. The DB name is WordPress. I hope that is clear. So that's the credential set. This is for the server. This is for the database on the server. So that's the concept underneath. So now let us quickly take a look at the scripts that we had. Like the scripts that we used were, go back, and you will find them right here. So we'll now look at this idea first, like passwords and usernames. The idea here is to create this user, this password, this database name on this data server using these credentials, because we have them working already. So we want to use these credentials to create username, password, and a database on the server. And that's what this script does. Let's go read it. So we can see that that script is what we need to be invoking by saying, bring it locally, like that. And so that's what I'm doing, is going to read it online. So that's the script. Now let's understand what that script does in the context of what we have in our mind. So in our mind, what we have, we want to create this 1, 2, and 3 on this server. That's exactly what's going on. I just point out where we are doing the first step. The first step what we are doing is to connect using these credentials with the server. That's this step. And what we're doing is using the MySQL client, we are using the user root. Why is it noisy? So it's very noisy right now. Let me get rid of that. Okay, there we go. So this thing, the user called, come on, right, let me write. Okay, here is your root user and here is your password that we are using to actually these credentials to connect to the server. And once we are connected here, we can then do other things like we want. 1, 2, 3 things. That's what we want to do. So first we need to establish a connection. So this stop statement here and this stop here is actually the 2 markers. Between these 2 markers, we are running something. That thing is called a MySQL database script. Between the stop and the other stop, the two stop markers here, so the dash stop and this stop, between that, what we have is a database script. But what you see in this location, what in this page here, this whole thing is actually a shell script. And that shell script has embedded MySQL database script between the stop buttons, or the stop markers, between this stop and that stop. In between that, whatever you have is a database script. So if you now look at just the database script, it is between this red line and that line. So anything in between the 2 red lines, like this and this, is database script. It will operate on this server to create these things that I want, the 3 things that I need on that server. So now let's go look. The first first double dashes are basically, it's a comment. So you can just ignore it or just read it if you like. But it's basically a comment. The next is to create a database called WordPress. And that is the step number 3 here. And remember, there is one thing which is, this is unique. And that is, you create the database only if it doesn't exist. And thereby, what we are accomplishing is the idea called idempotence. If the database already exists, you are running the script over and over and over again. Chef will invoke it. And so you want to make sure that you are idempotent in operation, meaning if the database already exists, you do nothing. If it doesn't exist, then you create it. That's what we want. And that's how you write when you write code to make it idempotent, is you identify steps to make sure that whatever you write is not going to hurt if you run it again and again and again, any number of times. Because idempotence is like, you have a state here and you want to go to that state. In the first time, you transition. In the subsequent times, you just go there again and again. That's idempotence right here. And that is what we are trying to write our scripts in such a fashion that they are idempotent. That is the reason why this script is so complex. It doesn't need to be that complex. You can actually write it much simpler if you don't worry about idempotence, but we do want to worry about idempotence. So that's why it is complex. A little bit complex, not too complex, but yeah, it's not simple 3 lines. If it was not, if I did not need to worry about idempotence, I'll just write 3 lines, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm done. One will be like create a database. The other will be, okay, you have a user. Where is the create user thing? Drop user, create procedure. I'm dropping the user. So let's go read line by line. That is something that we need to understand as to what is going on under the hood. We're going to create these things in an idempotent fashion. So if they exist, then I am not worried about it. not doing anything. If they don't exist, then I'll create it. So the way I'm doing this thing in this script, is any of you as a database admin? Please tell me, otherwise I'll be like wasting your time explaining things you already know. So if you know the database scripting already, you can probably understand it already. I don't need to go detail, but if you want me to, I will. So you need to stop me if you are finding that I'm boring you. And I'm clearing my drawings and drawing it again to illustrate the ideas that I just mentioned about idempotence, which is with this was simple. There's just one line does it. And the segment is right here. If it doesn't exist, then you better create it. That's the first time. Subsequent runs of the same script over and over again, this will be skipped. And that's how you will accomplish the idea of idempotence, by not having to create another database or override the existing one, because you're going to skip it. Because it exists, you're not touching it. Now we have to worry about these two things. So third was taken care of already here. So now the first two things, they actually go hand in hand. And what we are doing essentially is look at this portion, use WordPress. That basically defines this database here. That rather uses that database that we already have created here. So we want to now use it. And now we'll write a procedure. The procedure is between this statement. Begin, actually I should erase that. It is between the begin line here and the end line here. Or actually, you can think of it this way, that there is a delimiter. So there is an even better way to think about. Okay, erase. And a better way to think about is this delimiter. So in between this delimiter here and here is whatever you have is a procedure defined. The procedure defines the idea of, so let me read this clearly so I can elaborate in a succinct fashion, because I think I am not clear. So let me read this one more time, and I'll explain this to you in a fashion that will help you understand it in clear terms. What we are doing is the reason we wrote it this way, and of course there are better ways to write this. The reason I have written it this way is that if you have a user called username that already exists, then you try to create a user again, then you will find that the script itself returns a failure. So if an existing user and try to create another user, that will create a failure on the script, which means our chef run will fail, which means you will not have success, which is not what I want. So I would like to make sure that I actually succeed in creating a user like this with a password called password, provided they don't exist. And so that is what I'm doing essentially, is in here, in this statement, WordPress drop user if exists, is what I'm doing is to running a drop procedure if exists. And I'm dropping this procedure altogether if it exists. Meaning every time I run, if I find that there is a procedure like that, I will drop it. And as a consequence, it will be dropping this procedure if it exists. But if it doesn't exist, it will do nothing. So if I may clarify, what we are really doing in this segment is to drop the procedure if it exists. So here is a procedure. And if it exists, drop procedure if exists. It might exist from a previous run. Absolutely. And so we'll drop it. And then we'll call WordPress drop user if exists. At that time, since the procedure doesn't exist in the data structure in the server, this time we will call that procedure. The procedure is defined here between the delimiters. So we'll call that procedure now, and drop user if it exists, that procedure itself will be called. So now we'll invoke this portion. And as a consequence of what you will notice is that it will create a user called username on the local host, and if it, if this number foo, there is a variable called foo equals more than 0, then drop the user. If there are more than one user by the name username, then you drop them and create them. That's what's going on here in this segment. You look carefully in this section, I'll point out to you again, is if you have this foo variable, if it is more than 0, then you drop this user called username at localhost. And if into foo, when foo is not less than 0, meaning it is 0 or negative, because we are defining foo to begin with a default value of 0. So initially it is 0. And at that time, it will actually create a user on the local host. And if it is running multiple times, in that situation, we will not have the user called username at localhost. We are going to drop that user. So basically, it's effectively what the effect of this is. If that number on the first run, if you find that there is a user called username already existing, you just drop it. And then create that user again. Effectively, what this means is every time you run this code, you have the username deleted and recreated. This is a clumsy way of writing this exact statement, because that elegant one-liner is not available in WordPress, in database scripting. The elegance of this idea, if not exist. So imagine if you had a command like this called create user if not exists. Create user if not exists. But that construct doesn't exist. If that was there, I would have just used that username. I would have used this method called create user if doesn't exist called username, and I would have moved on with all this crap was totally unnecessary. So if that line was available in the code, in the syntax doesn't support this structure called if not exist when it comes to users. Like for users, it is available for databases, but not available for users. So this thing is not available. That is the reason why I had to write it in such a clumsy fashion, which makes it complicated to understand. So I'm clearing my drawing again and helping you understand that this portion will create a database called WordPress if it doesn't exist. This portion will drop and create a user if username doesn't exist. So the difference in here is if it doesn't exist, it will just create it. If not exists, whereas here it will drop and create a user. Drop plus create every time. A user called username in that segment highlighted in this section. And once we have that user available to us after we drop and create, then we assign it a password called password. And then we grant permissions of everything to that user at localhost identified by this password. We grant all privileges on the WordPress database to the username at localhost with grant option. We flush privileges and stop. The script stops at that point. And by doing it this way, what we are able to accomplish is a new user in the database to access the WordPress database. Here we have a username called user called username with a password called password, which has permissions to modify this database in this server. So that's what we need to create now in a cookbook. So we'll do that. And what we'll do is actually quickly create a custom cookbook. You will see how you create a custom cookbook. First, let us focus on creating this is creating a WordPress cookbook. But since I was talking about database, I'll just skip ahead and create the database user cookbook right there. So this line will create a new cookbook in our machine right here. And that's what I want to create. So what I want to do is go to the command line and in here, create a new book called DB user. And that book will pop up in our site cookbooks folder right here, somewhere here. That's what it will show up once we run this. which is to bundle exact knife cookbook, create a new cookbook called DB user. And that book is now available. It shows up here, DB user. You will see that there is a recipe called default, which is empty. So we want to fill it up with some content. And what we really want to accomplish is the ideas that we just discussed in creation of a user. So what we want to do is fill it up is with a invocation of a script that we already know. The script we know is the script that we ran, or rather discussed just now. We'll just copy the same exact script from here and drop it in a file called install_dbuser.sh. Now remember that file will go into a separate location called files, default. So there is a folder called files and default. That's where it will go in a new script. So right there, I will open up a new window in Atom and open a new file in there. And in that file, we'll call it install_dbuser.sh. So that script is what will get invoked when you run that particular cookbook. And that script will contain what we just discussed, the same thing. And we want to save this. So I have saved this file containing the database script in a new file called install_dbuser.sh in the default folder under files folder. That's the location where we can access any file that we want in a cookbook. It has to be going in the files default location. Once we have that resource available, we need to use the cookbook method to place that resource into the machine that we are running it on and then invoke it. How do you invoke something? You know how to place a file like index.html on a folder that we have done already, by the way. So similar to that, what we are going to do is, if you want to place a file in index.html file in var www folder in Apache, what would you do? You basically do something like this, that you grab a file called index.html and you go to that location where you have it, and then you're done. Basically, this portion was not there in the Apache exercise. But what we are doing is we did use cookbook files structure, and then we had a location called var www and then index.html. And we use the index.html file placed in the files default folder in the Apache or Nginx exercises before. This time we are doing very, very similar in here, in that what we are doing is taking this file, dbuser.sh, which is stored in the files default location, grab it from there, the source location, and dump it in the location called TMP in the target machine, the node that we have or we will have in the cloud. We will have a new machine in the cloud and we'll dump it right there, TMP install dbuser.sh. So that file will place this file in the temporary folder in the target machines, target nodes. And the next idea we have is we want to invoke it. So here is what we do, is we either say bash invoke. The code we want to invoke is in between the EOH handlers. So this between two EOHs, we have a bash script. And what we are doing is invoking this script on the target machine. We have placed the script already in there, and we want to invoke it just like that. So this invocation, one-liner invocation, is equivalent to the cheating method, practically speaking. But we are doing this the chef way as opposed to like manually typing it. So this action will create a script in the TMP location, and the second bash action will invoke it. So that's the invocation of the script here. And what this does is creates a database, a user, and a password. So we have that. And once we have that in our hand, what we need to do is save this portions in the default recipe that you already know. So this is my default RB updated with a placement of a shell script and invocation of that shell script on the target machine. That goes in the default RB in the recipes folder in the newly created cookbook called DB user. Now we will, go back a step and actually finish up the way the exercise is written. The exercise actually suggests that we create a WordPress cookbook also. So you will find that this cookbook that I'm going to now create is a slightly different way of handling. So let me create the cookbook first. The cookbook is called WP. We now have it here in the WP folder inside cookbooks. And there we have recipe, and in that recipe, we have a default recipe, and we want to actually do something that we did by hand. We want to do that same thing this time by shell script, or rather chef cookbook. So what we're doing is, in that default recipe, what we have, we are basically grabbing this and dumping it in here, and then reading it and understanding what it does. And you will see what it does is basically the same thing that you saw before, which is to invoke 453, which is not what we want. So we'll change it to 498. That will give us the latest version of WordPress already. So this, by the way, between this EOH handlers that we have, between the two EOH handlers in line number 24 and 41, what you're seeing is a script that you already know installs WordPress. And the difference between this way of writing cookbook and the other way of writing cookbook is that we are embedding our shell script right in line in the default RB recipe, default recipe for the WordPress cookbook. We are just putting it in line between the EOH handlers in line number 24 and 41, which means the script goes right here. And this does exactly what you want it to do, which is, if you read it, what it does. Let's go read that. So if you read it, you will find it is going to invoke the bash shell, and it will invoke this code, which is written down in between the two EOH handlers in port 24 and 41. And inside that, you will have the script itself. If you carefully look at the script basically has an if condition. This if condition is the idea behind idempotence. One more time. The idea of idempotence goes like this. If you have a folder called var www called wp-config.php, if that file exists in this folder, that means you have WordPress already. That means you should not be doing anything. And then you just skip all this, because you have WordPress already. That means you will not be making around, no messing around, don't touch it, leave it alone, move on, and you're done. On the other hand, if you don't have WordPress, like the first time when you run a new cookbook, this cookbook called WordPress will run with the default recipe, and this will find that this particular folder does not contain this file. So it doesn't contain. That means else will invoke. And when it does, when this invokes, you will find you do not seem to have WordPress installed. So I'm going to install it for you. That's the echo, but this is just for reading. The actual action is to get WordPress software from that location, wordpress.org, unzip the tarball, remove the tarball itself, remove this folder, and move it to the WordPress folder, into the var www folder. And then you change permissions on that folder to the user that Apache runs as. So we know the Apache runs as www-data user. So that user becomes the owner of this folder, and that will allow you to successfully run and use WordPress, no problem. That's what we are doing essentially in the first run, and in subsequent runs, we'll skip it with the if condition test. That if condition basically checks whether you have WordPress already or not. If you already have it, you do nothing. And if you don't, you install it. And when you do, you have it then. And so that's what we will now invoke. So in our exercise, what we just did is created two cookbooks. And you know the cookbooks are DB user and WP. So those two cookbooks are now available in our local computer. Our Chef server has no idea. Chef server has no clue what we thought, what we did. Whatever we did, we wrote that down, but Chef doesn't know. So we need to tell our Chef server that, you know what, I got two cookbooks for you. So please take it. So we'll do that. But before we actually send our cookbooks up, you need to understand that they will not get invoked because our roles that we have, our base role does not refer to any of the cookbooks that we just created. You know, it doesn't talk about the DB user cookbook, doesn't talk about the WP cookbook. These guys have no idea. Similarly, the DB master role, this thing doesn't have any idea about what do we need to do with the DB user. So we need to basically create a new user, or rather new reference to the DB user creation inside our DB master role, which means we need to expand this and add it here. Add what? What did I just add? I invoke the DB user default recipe in my database master role. That's one line I added here, and a comma at the top, and then this line. I added a comma at this line, and then this segment on line number 7. That's the new addition I did to my role called DB master, because that should invoke the DB master cookbook, which I have here. It should invoke the default recipe that I have here, which will invoke the install DB user script, which I have here. So the cookbook is available, or will be available to the Chef server, but Chef server will not understand what to do with it unless you expand your role definitions. The role definition essentially is like this: recipe, DB user, default. That action, when you run the DB master role, this role, it will automatically create the user on the database machine. Similar to this, what we need to also do is to add the recipe called WP default, which is to invoke the WordPress cookbook. This one, the default recipe, we need to invoke that one in another role. The role I want to invoke is the web server role. And here we have a bunch of things here called Apache mod rewrite, Apache mod PHP 5, and after that, one more role. The role I want to invoke is WordPress. The role that I have is called web server. And in that web server role, I am invoking the WordPress default recipe, which is this recipe. And that sets up WordPress. That's what I want on the web server. So that's what I'm doing on the web server. And that is how you invoke the WordPress cookbook, by calling it out in a role definition here for the web server. Similar to this, if you recall, what I did was that I looked at my database master role, and here what I did was invoke this portion, which is invoking the default recipe in the DB user cookbook right here. Default recipe in the database user cookbook. And this itself invokes this item, which we know, and that's actually what runs to create a user called username and password and WordPress database and all that. That's what we are invoking. This portion is I have written this time in the DB master role, and the other thing that I wrote down is in a different role. You will see that subtle difference the way I'm doing this, what is written down on the website. There are subtle differences, very, very tiny. The difference is you will see that this action in the exercise right up here on the website, this action here, DB user default, is actually mentioned in the web server role, which is not wrong, but it's not exactly what I would like it to be. So I'm actually going to remove that line from there. Like this particular line, I will remove and leave only that one DB or WP default portion in this web server.rb role expansion of the definition, and then take that line that I removed from here and put that in the other role called database role. So that database role is not here on the website. It is not mentioned at all. And that is something that I want you to understand. The way I'm doing it this time is slightly different than what the website actually shows you. The website is silent on what I did in line number 7. This line actually shows up right here in web server RB, like this. But it doesn't hurt to put it by itself in the database server role, because that's, I think, more clean and elegant in terms of thinking. You can put it anywhere you like. So that's the database master RB, and this is your web server RB. So we have these two new roles clearly called out. And so this is your web server RB containing the default reference to the WordPress cookbook, default recipe WordPress cookbook. You have that in the web server RB, and similar to that in the other role expansion. What I have in the database master role is I have this line, which is the default recipe in the database user cookbook, expanded in the database master role. Now we have a bunch of different role definitions and 2 new cookbooks, and our chef server has no idea. So what do? We need to basically tell the chef server that I got new cookbooks for you and that I got new roles for you. So here is a shortcut cheat method of sending all the cookbooks up to the chef server, all of them. You will see that this will pick up basically all the cookbooks. DB user picked up, WordPress picked up. And so these 2 cookbooks are also going along with all other cookbooks. And if the chef server already has the cookbooks, there is nothing to upload. So it will not upload, only just the ones that we need to. And then it finished. So now we have in our chef server, we have all the books, including DB user and WP that we just created. These 2 new cookbooks are now available to us in the chef server. Similarly, we want to update our roles that we have expanded. So we'll say, you know what, take my roles definition and just update what you have, because I've changed my roles. So there it goes. So what I want to do now is, now that I have roles provided to the chef server, cookbook provided to the chef server, what I want to next do is run the entire exercise with just one command. This time it will include every single thing, and we'll also include the run list this time. So you will see what I did last time is I did not have any run list references here. This time, what I'm going to run, it will have a reference to the run list. So you will now compare what I have here in line number 19 and line number 36. Let's go compare item by item. The only thing I need to worry about is this key, which I need to copy from there and override this old key that I have like this. And now you will see that in line number 45, I have included the run list references already. You will also see that in line number 44, I have labeled my machine in production environment. And what these 2 things will do is basically equivalent to what we did in the previous step, or other, the other day by hand. We by hand put our machines in production environment, and we added these roles later on after the fact. In a subsequent Chef client run, it picked up the roles and then it's expanded to create a LAMP stack. This time the role itself is a little bit different in that it also does WordPress deployment in the same shot. So these roles will actually do the things that we want. So we are including them in the run list itself at the time of creation of a new droplet. I need to also make sure that my key number is correct. My key pair name is correct. My New York City is fully occupied. So San Francisco 2 is what I should be focusing on, like that. Not New York City. New York City number 2 is gone and full the last time I checked. We have the server name slightly different, not abracadabra. Doesn't matter, but just a different name. We have the location different. Bootstrap was already there. Key name, key ID. Environment is new. This segment and the last segment is the run list references. These two things are new. That's how we will invoke in our DigitalOcean cloud. And we'll now do the same exercise again in the other cloud called Amazon Cloud. And here is how we'll do it. Hold on. Typo. Oops. Come on, type. There we go. Okay. Here I want to compare and contrast what I have here with line 29. So I'm contrasting 46 and 29. And I find that my key name needs to be changed to workstation. So I copy that name, not IDRSA, but the name I'm using is workstation. Then I have the key file name correct. The Ubuntu user is correct. The machine image is now a new number. So I'll grab that number and put that in the old number I have here and say, hey, use the new machine ID. Similarly, we have T2 micro and we have lines 52 and 53. These are new lines. They correspond to the same idea here in 43 and 44. The ideas are to put the machine in production environment and include run list that will include base role, master role, DB master role, and web server role. So these three roles are already included. So these two commands are now ready for execution. These two will go to two different clouds and set up end-to-end WordPress, like complete, ready to use scenario. That's what you will see now. And by the way, if you're in the mood of another cloud, here is the other cloud called, here is how you do it in the Amazon cloud. So the instructions are, no, this is actually not Amazon cloud. This is also Amazon cloud, not Azure cloud. There is Azure step also written down, by the way. So by the way, this thing is something we'll talk about in just a minute after I run these two commands. So what I'm doing is I'm opening two terminals and I have this terminal where I will run one of the cloud commands to go on operate on DigitalOcean, and the other I will run on Amazon cloud. So here one of them will say you go and run it in the hello. Yeah, I'm talking to you, mouse. Yeah, there we go. And you on the right half. And then here is your copy paste. So in our copy paste on the left, on the right side, I will run Amazon cloud. We'll say you go create a new WordPress machine in the Amazon cloud like that. So go do it. And it's doing it. Now we will go run the same exercise on the other window with DigitalOcean cloud. And we'll say you please do the same thing on DigitalOcean cloud. So it's going to do it. So both of these are doing it. And server name cannot be empty. Apparently I have a typing mistake there. So let's go find out what that typing mistake was. Apparently I forgot server name somewhere. Is it? It says server name cannot be empty. Okay, so I think I'm missing server name for some reason. Let's see what the reason is. The reason was that I forgot Cloud Genius for some reason, which means I need to have it just like here. Abracadabra. Didn't I have it? I thought I saw it like a few minutes ago. Where did I delete or something? I accidentally deleted apparently. So I will put that back in place like this. So we'll have a new machine called Cloud Genius, server name. Okay, as long as I can type properly, here is your Cloud Genius machine name. And that's just a different name. Apparently I deleted that name by accident. So here is my copy, and onto the other terminal. Here you go and run a machine with WordPress for me end to end, and just tell me that it is done. And now while it's doing, both these clouds are happening, we'll go talk about something else. They'll take about a minute or two, maybe more, but we'll look at them later on. So let them run. We'll talk about this other thing, this longer, more complex looking thing. Let's go see what it says. So we can run it also, by the way, but just I want to talk about it before I run it. So here is your window where I'm typed it in big bold letters. In that window, what do you have? Let's go read. And we like to compare this with the Amazon cloud. So this is also runs on Amazon, by the way, and Amazon.com. And here is your Amazon cloud that I need to go to the portal and then look at the EC2 section. How many times do you want me to log in Amazon? Okay, logging in again. And so that's your Amazon console. You have your VPC section. And in that VPC, you already know that all the exercises we have been doing in the last day and today up until now were in the default VPC, like this one, default. Because I deleted the other VPC, like completely deleted, because I want to cut confusion. But we have done the other VPC exercise also. And you know that in my other locations like Oregon Cloud, I might have another VPC. Apparently I don't. So let's see if I have another VPC somewhere else, like maybe in Northern California might have a two VPC scenario. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So there it is. So in Northern California, I seem to have a VPC here called something, Cloud Genius, as opposed to the default. The two VPCs, like all these exercises we have been doing, and these two that are going on right now, these two, they are all going and running in the default VPC. And by the way, this thing finished. This finished nicely. And that is what we have, which is what you report. And so this machine has this public IP address, so we can go there. And this guy is also done doing its thing, which is nice. So we have two machines apparently successfully completing the idea. So we have the IP address here as well as the IP address here. So we have two IP addresses both running WordPress. We'll go take a look in a minute. In a minute, we'll take a look at that as to what they have done. But focusing on this segment, that's what I want to focus on. Is this idea is basically similar to what we just ran, except it will allow you to create in a custom VPC as opposed to just going here. Going here is easy. I should say easier, because you can just skip many of the default settings. You can ignore them. So if you ignore everything, it just automatically goes in the default VPC and it runs. But that's not what you want. In certain cases, you may want your machines to be created inside your VPC, like wherever you choose it to be. So that's what we have here, is that you need to go into great detail and understand what it does, because you might have a situation like in your Cloud Genius VPC with a custom CIDR location, you might have multiple subnets, and in those subnets you have, certain rules about routing. You might have, security groups, and these are the things that you already know. And so if you decide that you want your machine to be created in your application subnet inside somewhere, you need to be able to handle that. And that's what we will now look at, is go to the subnet section And you will see that I have application A and application C subnet and a public A and public C subnet. So that's what I'm looking at in my Cloud Genius VPC. I have these 4 subnets. And if I want to create a setup like that, but I want to make sure that it gets created inside your chosen application A subnet, which by the way is not directly accessible through, unless you have a tunneling or a jump box or something like that, you cannot go there. So that is what we need to have, is a jump box in place first. And that is what this idea of jump box goes right there. So you need to have a jump box so you can go into the application A subnet. And that subnet definition goes right here, because that is what you specify. This subnet, you need to specify and call it out in line number 14. You have to specify your jump box and call it out, like that's the username and that's the IP address for the jump box, so you can jump. Similarly, you need to also specify your zone 2A for app A and 2C for app C, or whatever other zones you might have. You need to also call out the machine image. This is not new, not new. This is not new. This is not new, not new. But this is new. You have to also specify which security groups you will apply to the machine that you want to create in a custom application subnet that you have. And so that's what is going on here. So if you go and look at the ideas that are new this time in this custom VPC compared to the ideas that we have done already, we have done this already, we know this, we have done this, we have used this, we have used this, we have used this, we can understand this. We are, by the way, we just ran this segment, we just ran this idea, but other things are not really done yet. So let's go look at what these things. This is basically selecting a availability zone. This is about selecting a particular subnet, like app A, app C, whatever you want, public B, public A. God knows what you want. You just need to know the subnet ID number, and you put that right here. Then you have security groups that you want to associate with. And this, by the way, is plural word, IDS. Basically, it means IDs. IDS. IDS means IDs, identifiers, plural. And that plural means you can have multiple such numbers, one after the other. You can have multiple security group identifiers associated with this new server that you want to create. And this section is tagging. Basically, assign a tag here in the machine that gets created. No big deal there. This idea is your jump box idea. You need to have a jump box and jump through that box. Otherwise, Chef will fail. And here is a key idea. Automatic deny public IP, which is specifically saying that, you know what, I don't want a public IP. I want it to be a private IP address, so don't give me one. So server connect attribute, private IP address. You want to go through the private IP address side because there is no public IP. Right? That's the only way to get there is a gateway, which is a tunnel, which is a jump box. So this is how you do it. If you want to do it in a VPC, which is not your default VPC. And that's the idea which we have just discussed. And I'm going to clear my drawings and go to the section where I have it written down, which is right here. If you select a VPC other than your default, you need to be more specific and provide additional details like this example shows you. So you should actually run this step. You should actually run it this way, like here. I did not run it because I can run it with you if you like in a custom VPC. But I would like you to run this exercise actually in a custom VPC by going through the trouble of identifying these exact things that you want to go and make use of. So actually, I'll leave it to you as to what your choice is. You want to run it in default, that's totally fine with me. But if you really want to stretch, this is the stretch route. Stretch it. And I can keep on adding on trouble, or rather I should say level of difficulty, to extend and stretch it even more if this is not stretchful enough, or I should say stressful enough. Well, having said, let's go look at our machines and see what we actually receive when we ran these two, and then we seem to have something apparently functional. So let's go see this IP address. public IP from Amazon Cloud. And let's go check it out. See what do we get. So I'm copying that public IP, go to a browser outside and say, hey, show me. What do I get? I get WordPress. That's what I expected. So I continue. And I said, I need to have a database name and a username and a password and host. And I already know these things because my username is username. My password is password. My host name is localhost. My database name is WordPress. So I already have it. So I just say, let's go. And the other default values that WordPress also wants. I just deliberately chose these names to make my life easy, and I just submit. And it says, all right, Sparky. So I run the installation, and the installation is ready. This is your Cloud Genius on Amazon. And here's my username. And here's my password. It can be anything you like. It doesn't have to be. But just saying that it's a weak password, and I know it is weak, and I don't want to show it to Google. So install it, and there it goes. So I have correctly connected to WordPress in the Amazon cloud, and I seem to be accessing my dashboard and my website completely fine. There it is, Cloud Genius on Amazon Web Services. And I am logged in. And I can administer my site if I want. Or if I want to change the theme completely, I can just say that, you know what, maybe this is a better looking theme. And so I activate it and publish. Or I didn't ever change the theme, I can appearance, themes, and I just activate that other theme. So now my site looks very different. And here it is, a different look. I can go back and activate a third theme, actually activate and publish, and that's the third look and feel of the same site. Here's how it looks the third time. And maybe I don't like this view, so I can go back to the latest version, which is, I think, where is my themes? Themes. And basically, you play with WordPress the way you want. It doesn't matter. Themes are irrelevant. But then why am I playing with themes? Okay, cancel. So stop. Enough of this playing around with WordPress. Now, this was the Amazon WordPress. Let's go look at how DigitalOcean WordPress looks like, for which I need the IP address. So I have it here. I just grab it from there. I copy it. Go outside, and here I go. What do I see? I see WordPress. I need these details. I already have them. So I say, let's go. And I type them, and I say, submit, and I go. And I have WordPress on DigitalOcean. Okay, need to type properly and not rush. So here is WordPress on DigitalOcean. My username is 987 is my password. And I confirm weak password. You don't have to use weak passwords, but I'm just using it. I'm lazy. So I'm installing it and proceeding forward, logging in the same way like before. And here I should succeed in connecting and all that. And here is your appearance that you see on the website. Looks like Cloud Genius on DigitalOcean. And this is your Cloud Genius on Amazon Web Services. That's what you got. So both these are up-to-date, latest version of WordPress. No updates available. They are ready and already up-to-date because that's how we installed it to begin with. And that is your exercise end-to-end. End-to-end on one box or two clouds. You can increase the complexity by going to a VPC like this, like I have described here already. So I'll let you do that on your own if you're interested in that direction. I will now extend the idea even further. And this actually will need a little break. And I'll let you digest whatever I did. And then we'll, after the break, resume and actually do the next idea, which is slightly involved. And I think that idea is creating two boxes for one application. And that is something that requires a little bit of understanding. So I will now take a short break and resume after the break. I am starting a break timer on one of the windows. Here, maybe. Guys, I'm back. And if you ran this exercise with me, please tell me that you did. And if you did, please tell me that it succeeded.
Hey, Nilesh. Yeah, I was following along. I'm having an issue in AWS though with my.
Share it. I'll just take a look and fix.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make sure my knife.rb is not open. I'm not falling for that again.
I know.
Oh man. All right. Okay. So I think I messed up in my. Here's the script. It says it exited unsuccessfully. And
Okay, I know the error. So now I can just pinpoint the error where it is. So let's go see that. Can I?
Uh-huh.
Thank you. And let us see your role definition. The file name that you have is wrong. So I will update that. The file name is, it should be .sh. So can you make it?
Oh, I see.
Can you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
No, sorry.
No.
I'll let you do that.
So install DB user, right?
Install _ DB user.sh.
Okay.
Awesome. And now let us check a couple more things that you have fixed this. Can you close out this window?
Mm-hmm.
And close out on the scratch also, so we don't mess with it. Save it. Okay. Now let's look at our install DB user. That is beautiful. Let's see our invocation. See, this is sh, right?
Yeah, I see that.
So that is done. Let's now look at our roles. That is this role. And it is invoking the DB user default creation. We already understand the web server role is invoking the WordPress cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
WordPress cookbook is written like this, which is what we have already, which is nice. Now let us see what I want to see now. Yeah, I updated your cookbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell the chef server, I got a new cookbook. Ah. So the updated cookbook will go. The updated cookbook is this one.
Right.
So it'll go, and then we will run this exercise again one more time.
Yeah, so that it did create it.
I don't want it. I want it to die. And why is this stopped?
Oh, that was one that I had. The one I created on Friday. I guess we could probably just delete it.
Yeah, you know what? This stop doesn't mean that your bill stops.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Stop means you just stop the machine. You need to terminate the machine like this to stop your bill. This is the
Right.
to kill the machine, then your bill stops. Just leaving a machine in a stop state doesn't mean anything. It only
Okay.
means the machine is not running, but it means that it is allocated to you. So you have it, you have the responsibility to use it or not is your problem. You still have to pay for it. And paying is covered by your free trial offer, so that is okay. But yeah,
It's good to get in the habit, though, of removing whatever you don't need.
you don't need, you kill it, and you.
Yeah, that was the one I didn't realize that it said exited unsuccessfully. So I tried to connect, and then I saw the problem.
So now we have a new cookbook there, and we have our. So this one is running now, is it?
Yeah.
So why do you have 3 machines running here?
Again, I just forgot to delete them. That was from Friday.
These guys will hurt you with the bill. So you have only $5 left. Just pay attention to that.
Okay.
If you go down below 0 and then charge your credit card, just pay attention. Be careful. So if you don't want something, get rid of it.
Yeah, the abracadabra can probably go in the chef homework.
Yeah. Really. Destroy. And droplets. Chef homework. Destroy. And the last one. This one. Is it working?
So I have it, and I saw that chef, I think, connected. What is the final test? Oh, I have to just try and go in. Yeah, I haven't tried it yet. So
Yeah, it will not work, right? Because your installed debuser was defective.
yeah.
So even this needs to die.
Okay.
So die. Go bye-bye. And now we will just run the 2 commands one more time. Like here is one of those commands. This one is kind of a not interesting link. You can delete that. And this one is your DigitalOcean. So copy, bring it, and run it in this window here, like that. And this one is your Amazon setup. So we will copy and run it in this window, like that. And let it go. You should say yes, because the previous name exists. You want to say yes. And this should be deleted, by the way. And
What exists?
the name, Cloud Genius, it exists.
Oh, I see.
The name Cloud Genius machine name existed on your Chef server. It has been overwritten now, so it's not an issue. So this is a new machine. And so you see you're running into the limit already almost. And you need to clear these guys. Not sure, not keeping that. But this abracadabra can go. Right?
Yeah.
This can be deleted 3 days ago, it's gone. Then we have this machine, which is never checked in.
Yeah,
I never checked it.
that's from the one from 3 days ago is from Friday, so that can be.
That one can delete. This one never kicked in. Never checked
That's
in.
the one that was I just created today that failed.
Is it, or is it the one that I created right now and it's still not responding?
Well, I saw it after I did the unsuccessful run. I went into the chef manage and I saw it one there that said never checked.
Okay, so
So
we
now,
have two of these guys never checked, and this one is never checked. So we have to identify the machine image.
yeah, we'll see which one checks in.
This one can die though.
Yeah.
Is there nothing to kill here? This is not a machine representation. It's just a node entry in the chef server, so we can delete this node. This is from 3 days ago. And one of these guys, one of the I dashes, is a bad one, but we will let it check in. Like never, never. Both of them are never. One of them will show sometime soon. It will show, yeah, checked in just now. And just like this, Cloud Genius will also show and check up and say, yes, I am available and running. That's what you will see once these runs succeed. And so we're just waiting for those runs to finish. And then you could go back to check with your two clouds and chef server and see what's going on. And that is what you will see once these guys finish their run, which is what's going on right now. So we'll let them finish and understand what's going on here. And so this should be finishing up pretty soon, by the way. We'll just check them out as soon as they're ready. The Apache installing here on the Amazon cloud finished. So that's the IP address. We got that, we copy it. Then we go check with chef server, see what you got. Do you know these machines anymore now? Apparently 2 minutes ago. This one 2 minutes ago, and this one was 2 minutes ago. This one is never. That's a bad node entry, so we delete that one. 11F should be deleted. That's how you keep below the number 5 free choice. You have only 5 node limitation. You delete the entries, and you have only 2 now, and that are okay. 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, and so we now look at the Amazon machine right here, and here it is available. Let's go submit and run, and you're done. That's one. Let's go see the other machine. Here is the IP address for the other machine. Copy that. Go here, enter, and paste, and we see WordPress. And we just boom, 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 go, and ready with it. That's how you do it. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, nice, beautifully done. Well done.
All right, thank you.
Now delete everything.
I know that's rough. We do all this good work and then we're like, and destroy it, terminate
Yeah, you destroy it. But the good thing is you can create it so effortlessly now.
Yeah.
That, you already know what to do. You just run one command, like line number 27, and you have it, or line 39, and you have it. Right? That's how it goes. So it's so effortlessly created and deleted is that it doesn't even matter anymore.
Right.
You know that the thing can be created at a moment's notice. Click and wait for 2 minutes and you have it. That's the repeatability, or rather I should say, predictably repeatable. It is very predictable that you will succeed. You know you have written down your mind. Your mind is represented in this folder. This is your, whatever you had in your mind. What do I want as a result? You wrote that down, and that's what you have. So this is what I call your desire. And the desired state is written down in the configuration in these folders. It is cryptic, but you know how to write it now, and you can get things done. And so that's the underlying idea behind creating repeatable processes that need to be automated. So now you have a customer who needs a new WordPress. What do? You go here and invoke and say, hey, here's your IP address, go enjoy and have fun. Or they will have a working functional WordPress in a matter of 2 minutes. That's the idea under the hood. is that you can be a person who can serve other customers and give them a functional solution that whatever they want. So tomorrow, if the guys, your customers say that, you know what, I need something else. I don't like WordPress. I need something like, you know, so this website runs on another popular open source project. The project is called Drupal. And this Drupal thing is also open source. And it can be downloaded just like that. And so this thing can be downloaded from here. With the download button. Yeah, there it is. So there is a download button. And you can download the zip file. And if you're looking how to get this to start and install and plan, you can see that there is a user's guide and the official documentation. So you read the documentation and you will find that the documentation says that you need to have what again? It will tell you what exactly are the requirements. And the requirements are PHP and Linux and some web server like Nginx or Apache. So basically it is a LAMP stack. That is what is needed to get this to work. And so getting started guide will tell you exactly how to start. But essentially what you would do is modify your WP codebook and the default recipe to grab Drupal zip and put that in that folder. And that becomes your way to install Drupal. This Drupal thing doesn't require a MySQL database, but it does require a database. It doesn't have to be MySQL. It can be anything other than MySQL. Also, I think it's slightly expensive and it allows other databases. Let's go see what it requires from a database perspective. And it will tell you what is needed. Server requirements needs, PHP, Apache is recommended. Some other things are also supported. Hiawatha, or I don't know what that thing is, Microsoft. And for database choices, you can choose any of these three. I would say go with the number 1 or 2, not with the 3. This is not really good for production. This is good, this is good. You can 2 choices in here. So basically it is LAPP as opposed to LAMP. So PP is PostgreSQL in PHP. So you get Apache, Apache, MySQL. PHP was the LAMP stack. Here you get LAPP, Linux, Apache, Postgres, PHP. That's just an acronym, right? You can come up with an acronym that you want and use whatever you like. And that's the kind of requirement set that you have on this product called Drupal that this agency uses. So that is what you see and use if you like. So another software. All you really need to do is to look at the documentation and understand what does it take to build it in an automated fashion. So for that other documentation, you need to, of course, have a user created, pretty much like this. Now this, you can change it to, instead of WordPress, instead of MySQL database, like here, we have created a script that installs a user in the MySQL database. So this whole thing is MySQL related. But you can have Postgres related scripts if you're intending to use Postgres database. And that will also do the same or rather similar things with the Postgres database, a different database. And you need to have a user and you need to have a new cookbook called Drupal, and that will dump Drupal in the right location. And of course, you need to have a Postgres cookbook here, as opposed to the MySQL cookbook, which means you need to have this chef file, refer to a Postgres cookbook as opposed to MySQL cookbook, and that is you need to modify and update that with that in hand. And so what I will now do is let you give up the give up the projection, and I will project.
Okay, thank you.
And I will now, basically you're now looking at my desktop, and here what you see is a variation to what we just did. And I will now show you how to run into trouble, or rather how to avoid trouble eventually. But beginning with, how do you get into trouble to begin with? Like when you don't have this VM handy with you, and you don't have anything to go with it, and you still want to work with something, that's what I will now show you with a new machine. So here's a different virtual machine, which is not the Cloud Genius workstation. It is not, a ready-to-use configuration. It's like a brand new setup. It doesn't have everything that is already included. It doesn't even have the what I call the long list of things here called gem file. It doesn't have this long chef file. It doesn't even have the right version of Ruby that I'm using in here, because it is actually a different operating system. A different version of the operating system. So if you can look at here, this machine is running Ubuntu 14.04, whereas this machine on the other side is running something different. Let's go see what it's running. It's a new generation of Ubuntu. This is 14, this is 18. The Ruby version here is 2.5.1. All the available Ruby versions are only one. I can, basically the Ruby version here on the existing machine that you have is a Ruby 2.3.1 with different versions of Ruby. If I look at my my list of gems here, you will find that I have lots of gems. But if I look at the same project and open up Atom Editor, you will find that I have a slightly different looking gem file. And that is something to actually pay attention to, is how small it is compared to this gem file. And what you're looking at in this gem file is actually exactly how you begin working on a new idea. And I'll just adjust it a little bit, just a minute. I'll open it properly. There we go. So this gem file is very small compared to this longish gem file on the right side. And here, what we're doing is specifically focusing on just one thing that we really, really want. And that is, I want to use a slightly newer version of Chef. The Chef version here is 12.12. The Chef version here is 13.11.3. Newer version, one generation newer. And I want to focus on the latest version of Borgshelf, right there. The latest version of DigitalOcean Gem, latest version of EC2. Okay, so that's what I write down in my gem file, and I go here, and then I do what I do, which is I uninstall all the gems I have, just to reduce confusion. Like I'm getting rid of all the gems I have, because I don't want to confuse you. It's a fresh new machine. You will not have any gems to begin with. So I'm cleaning them up right now. Basically, you will see that I have a very short list of gems that come along with a new Ruby installation. So that's what you will see. It's a very short, simple, built-in gems Basically, I'm cleaning my machine right now to show you what happens when you have a short gem file, like really beginning point. You want to go with one cloud, two clouds, and not three, and unnecessarily make your gem file complex, like I seem to have here. And now I have my Atom editor with short gem file, and my Burks file is also very small. If you pay here attention, also very small Burks file compared to this Chef file method, slightly longer. On the right side, even smaller, focused on just the core necessary things. Anything else, I excluded that, deliberately excluded that. I think I'm not wearing my microphone, so I'm going to grab my mic and put it right in the right spot so you can hear me properly. Sometimes I start screaming, sometimes I'm very soft in the audio. So I've brought my microphone close to me. Now, even if I'm not, if I'm whispering, you can still catch me. So this list that you're looking at, the left side Burks file list, is actually a short list and focusing on just the core things, which is the LAMP stack. Let's go pay careful attention to what I'm doing here. Is I'm minimizing my complexity and saying Apache, PHP, MySQL. And then I have some additional things, like I like to update my machines. I need to build some applications. I need Git for obvious reasons. I need to create a user. I need to have escalation of privileges, and I need my editor. This is the editor. My preferred editor is VI. So I need that everywhere. And that's it. That's the limit of my current cookbooks, where this was longer, a little bit longer here, where this is short. And it uses Burks file as opposed to Chef file. That's just different. It's a different tool. You used this before. This is a newer tool. So I would recommend that you use Burkshelf. And that Burkshelf itself is clearing it, going back to the other window. This Burkshelf itself is actually called out right here. How do you come up with these numbers? If you may ask, you go to that Ruby Gems website and say Ruby Gems. And here, you tell me what is the latest version of Burkshelf available. And you find it is 706 right there. August 6, 2018. Similarly, you find that I need latest version of Chef. And it is 14.5.3, which is the latest version available. But I am not, I tried, by the way, and I did not succeed. And so I go one step back and I go to 13.11.3, which is the latest version in the branch 13. That's what I'm using here. Similarly, I'll go look for Knife DigitalOcean, Knife EC2, and all that. And I look at my Knife RB, and here is your Knife RB on the other side, which is a working Knife RB with correct credentials in place. So I need to copy those credentials into my new computer and then delete the old credentials and put the new ones right here. And I have my DigitalOcean token already correct. So with that, what I'm doing is basically making sure that I can operate on my clouds using my new machine, which has a very, very different set of requirements. By the way, in my command line, as you will see, my list of gems is very small now because I don't have any gems to begin with. My gem file is this short list, and I want to install these gems because that's what I really want to use. So I'll say bundle exec. No, what do I say? Bundle install. Install these gems. So it will install these gems for me. As you will see, it will take a little long, like 2 minutes for me, because my machine is already big. And so this machine is, I think, 16 GB virtual machine on the left side and 8 GB on the right side. So they're probably doing okay in terms of setup. So they'll finish off quickly, and then we will have a long list of gems available. But this list is a side effect of dependencies coming along. My gem file actually is short, like there. But all other gems getting installed are dependencies of the other gems. And that is how you go and expand to a longer gem file like this. Is you go grab it from here, from all the gems getting installed, and you basically lock yourself on those known working versions. Whatever is known as working, we'll first of all test it. And once we test it, we'll lock it down in a gem file so that everybody on the team will use the exact same collection of gems. And that's how you rigidly discipline everybody on the team to make sure that they don't go on various paths. They all stick to the same set of rules for a given application. And that's the idea underlying building a new application. So that's what we are really trying to do, is that now you see my gem file, or rather list of gems is a really long list. And what I will now do is, first of all, test out whether I'm able to correctly operate with my clouds, 2 clouds, and my Chef server. So here we go. Bundle exec. Knife EC2 server list. So it should show me my server running there. And I see that it is there. By the way, I created it on this machine on the right side, but I'm going to delete that server from the left side. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you like. So here we go. Bundle exec, knife EC2, server delete. That machine, please delete that machine. And I'll say yes. And it deletes it. It tells me that the corresponding client and node are not deleted yet, which is fine. I'll delete them right now. And I'll say knife node delete. And it, I forgot to type bundle exec, so it doesn't know. So bundle exec. And also corresponding client entry. That will also go bundle exec, knife node, or knife client, delete, and this entry. Same thing again, I want to do with the DigitalOcean cloud. I'll say digital, no, what do I say? Bundle exec, knife DigitalOcean droplet list. And that's the list of machines I have. And I typed incorrectly apparently. Knife DigitalOcean droplet list. What just happened? How is this different than what I'm typing? Okay, try it again. Bundle exec knife digital underscore ocean droplet list. Okay, I got my droplet. My droplet ID is that ID. So I'll copy that ID and say bundle exec knife DigitalOcean droplet destroy. See, the commands are slightly different in the way you write. So it will shut up and destroy that ID. And once that is done, I'll say bundle exec knife node list. I think I have a node called Cloud Genius there. I want to kill that machine node entry. So I'll say bundle exec knife node delete Cloud Genius, and similarly bundle exec knife node delete Cloud Genius, and say yes to it, and then delete the corresponding client entry. Bundle exec come on, type properly. I think my orientation is bad. Knife client delete Cloud Genius. That should delete it. Now I have no cloud node, no nodes, no clients, no machines, no nothing in any of the clouds, and I'm basically starting from a point where I need to be. But my setups are different. Like my gem files are different. You'll see that my gem file is this. My works file is also short. So I need to get my items, these cookbooks, into my kitchen. I don't have them here. So I need to bring the books down here. I can do basically the same way. Like, for example, bundle exec works install. And this will bring down all the books and put them in where? They don't put it in here, a cookbooks folder yet. Works file, work shelf tool doesn't put books in the cookbooks folder by default. it puts it somewhere outside here. That's where you'll find the books. And so they're here, but I don't want them in my cookbooks folder until I am ready to run it. So that's the approach I'm taking, slightly different than what I have. And once I have my cookbooks in place, and I need to now have my site cookbooks, which I don't have in my Atom editor. You will see that I don't have any site cookbooks here. So I need to create them, and I can probably cheat and get from the other books that I already have created them. I'll just grab them from there and dump it into grab it from this machine on the right side, and basically grab it from the roles, the environments, all these things. I have it are already written down. I can just copy and paste and bring them here. That's what I want to do. But it's two different machines. Copy and paste doesn't work. I have to go another method to actually grab it from that machine, bring it to this machine, which is what I will be doing now, which is some command line steps we have to go and execute on to make sure that we can grab this entire folder from one machine to the other. You can watch me do that, but it's very clumsy. So I will not explain unless you want me to explain, in which case I will. But what I'm doing is grabbing the IP address of this machine. Let's see, grabbing the IP address of this machine, and then it is actually behind a NAT. The machine configuration is kind of clumsy. As you will know, you cannot just directly reach one from the other. The configuration is like this. Inside my computer, I have two VMs running. There's a NAT here, and then there is a machine here. This is the old VM, old one. Then there is a NAT here, and then there is another machine, the new VM. So I cannot get from this machine to that machine. This is my Mac. And so from here, I want to go there. Not possible. So what do I need to do is from my Mac, access this, grab whatever I need, and then put it here. That's the route I had to go and take. I can verify this thing with you on the terminal. On both these machines, you will see that what I'm talking about right now. Here is the machine on the old left side. ifconfig. The machine IP address is 10.0. No, actually not. It is not. It is on the real modem I have, the real NAT I have in the building. Whereas this machine, apparently, let's see where it is, ifconfig. This machine is on the NAT. So the thing that I had drawn before, I need to change it. So this is my Macintosh. This is my home. In the home, there is a router. The router assigned an address to this Mac. The router has also assigned an address to this VM. So this machine is actually running like an independent machine because of bridge networking. Bridged directly to the home router. This Mac has a different IP address, which you can see on the Mac. So I'm not on the Mac right now. And inside the Mac, there is a NAT. There is another router. And there is this new VM. And this new VM has an IP address of 10.02.15 that you can see here. And so what I need to now do is from this machine, go to that machine and grab whatever I want. I can just easily access that machine, no problem. One shot, I should be able to access that IP address. In fact, I should be able to ping this IP address right from here, So let's go ping that one, this one. From here, it should be pingable because it is actually accessible. I can go ping, and once I ping, I go connect and grab whatever I need. So that's the idea. I'm going to clear my drawings. My all red ink will disappear. Now I will ping that IP address from my new machine here and grab the entire kitchen onto a local computer. And so here it goes. What I want to do now is ping. And it is responding nicely. Now I will connect to that computer and grab whatever I want. Now what do I want? It brought down the entire folder from the old machine to the new machine. It's actually bringing it right now. And it is bringing all the trash and TMP and cookbooks and every single thing now pops up in our atom editor in a folder called this. And I can just now drag and drop within my local atom. And that will allow me to actually modify my existing collection with the ideas that I have in my cookbooks that I don't need. So I can get rid of that. I can delete this one. I need my data bag. So I'll grab it from here and put that in the chef repo. I need my environments. I'll grab it from here and put in the chef repo. I need my roles. I need my site cookbooks. I need my TMP to be deleted. My Git repo can also delete. I don't need that Git repo. And my chef file I'm not using. Gem file I'm not using. I have a README file I can reuse. I can maybe reuse the README file and dump it here like that. And these files are basically useless because they are from the old repo. So gem file lock goes away. Gem file goes away. Chef file lock. .chef folder is kind of interesting, but I have it already here, so I'm not worried about it. I have the same things there. So basically, I'm getting rid of this folder altogether. This contains .chef and everything else that I wanted, and I am getting rid of it like that. So it's gone. But now my kitchen is ready. With this kitchen in hand, I have my site cookbooks. Like I have my WordPress recipe created, my DB user recipe created with a files default install DB user sh, and my roles folder has a DB master reference like this. My web server has a WP default reference like that. And my environments are understood. My data bags are clear. My roles are clear. My site cookbooks are understood. And my cookbook folder is empty. So I'll create that new folder here called cookbooks. And it is currently empty. And that contains nothing. And now I have a Burks file, a burksfile.lock, a gem file, short gem file, gemfile.lock. And I have a README file and a scratch file from an older run. So I can delete the scratch actually, because that is already included in the README file. But with this in my hand, I am now able to invoke the same commands, this time again, but using a different version of Chef server. As you will see when I invoke this, the same exact thing, but with a different collection of gem file, like this, and Burks file, like this. And what I want to do is delete all the cookbooks I have here on the Chef server. So the Chef server has whatever cookbooks it has. Let's see what cookbooks do you have, Chef server, and can you delete all cookbooks, please? So that's what I want to do is go to the cheat sheet. And there is a short way to delete, or I'll just remember the cheat command and delete it by hand. So it is basically something like this: bundle exec cookbook upload, but bulk delete. I should just do a Google search. Bulk delete cookbooks, and that is how you delete. Knife cookbook bulk delete, that's the command. So knife cookbook bulk delete, and delete everything like that. It should delete all the books stored in the Chef server. It's what I think it is doing right now. And it's asking me, should I? And I say yes. So it will delete the whole thing. And once it is deleted, I will now update the Chef server with fresh cookbooks obtained by Bookshelf. And so that's a different version, slightly different versions. By the way, I should say that even the cookbook versions in my Burks file are slightly newer. So the apt cookbook version, the build essential, the Git version, the MySQL version, these are also newer cookbook versions. So it's really up to us as to how do you want to play with and figure out what you want to actually use and run the exercises as you go along. I think that's the key takeaway that I'm trying to communicate to you, is you can experiment. And when you experiment, you will fail. And it's a great thing to happen because only then you really learn. And I want you to try out various combinations of various different projects, different products, and see what can be done with the tool that you have in hand. Because once you explore and identify a scenario that is of your interest, there's something, some other application, some other cookbook, some other variation. And that is the key idea to remember and understand, is that you want to explore. And while exploring, you have to change things, like change something or change this and change that. And you will likely do these things on your own. And I don't want you to struggle with it. So I'm going to give you a nugget of wisdom to really understand how to make change. Because I want you to change. But change comes with this difficulty of failures. You will run into, hey, what just happened? It doesn't work. Now what do I do? And so that you can avoid, or rather minimize the pain, or minimize the what's the word? The headache, maybe, in handling change, because change will cause headache, cause trouble, cause errors and failure. You can minimize that by changing only one thing at a time. That's the nugget, the key takeaway from all this variations that I'm playing around, this and that cookbook, this gem file. For what? Is to show you that you should change, but change one thing at a time, really, really slow. One change. So you change the machine, got it. Change the Linux version, understood. Change one step in your gem file. Go step by step. Run the whole thing again and find out what is working, what is not working, and fix that before you move on to taking the second thing. If you change multiple things at the same time without getting the experience of handling it, you will cause severe headache and you will probably abandon your ideas. But I don't want you to abandon. I want you to explore. And I'm telling you, the easiest way to being successful in exploration of new ideas is to change, but change one thing at a time. It is easier to digest and manage that change because you exactly know what caused the trouble. And so you should change, but one at a time, and go slow, but deliberately go and change something, because that's what that'll help you in accomplishing whatever you desire, as opposed to whatever I wrote down in the homework assignment, which is interesting to some, but not exactly interesting to your customer. And so you should find out from your customer, what do they want? And then try to build towards that. And that, I think, is the key takeaway. Questions are welcome before I expand further into a different direction, which is to make the project even more complex than it currently is. But that complexity is actually easy to accomplish because we have done the grunt work already. Our grunt is very succinctly captured in these commands, the last two here. It very nicely captures the grunt because it is very repeatable, very effortlessly repeatable. So I am shutting down this machine on the left side and focusing on the existing machine that we were working with on the right side. This machine has this atom editor, which has the README file, which succinctly writes down repeatable steps. So we have that already in hand. So our pain point is taken care of for the most part. So now we are in a position to actually make it even more complex than it was to begin with, without increasing the difficulty associated with it. And that is the idea in the next step. So the next step is actually just one page, this page. Not that big a deal. This one page describes the whole thing as to how to do it. And it's not complex. But the key idea here is to understand what are we doing, essentially. That's what I will be talking next. Questions are welcome any time, now, later, whenever you feel like. So, in our exercises, what we did is we took one cloud and we took one machine in there and ran everything in that machine. We took another cloud and we took one machine there and ran everything in that machine. This worked, this worked. But this is so small and so tiny and just everything in one box. That's not how real life is. Real life is more complex than this. In real life, you have actual customers with lots of things to do, actually visit that IP address. And imagine if you have like thousands of people, or maybe tens of thousands of people, or more, who knows? And they all visit that IP address with some website runs there, and you want to have that website be resilient, be able to serve these people for real. For that, you have to begin thinking about what did you do here and how can you do it differently to actually address these people. Because they will hit your poor little T2 micro machine, and that machine will die very, very, I mean, not die, but it will cripple under the pressure of these many hits. It's such a small T2 micro machine that it will actually stop responding in a timely fashion and frustrate your users. So these guys who are visiting will get frustrated, and that's not what you want. So to start thinking about the ideas that I'm describing, which are basically two ideas. One of them is called separation of concerns. And the second idea is scaling. Specifically scaling out and scaling back in. I hope you remember what I mean by these two things. Scaling out, scaling back in, as opposed to growing and shrinking vertically. This is horizontally. Horizontal scaling. And that is something that I think you already know this thing. So no, you don't know this yet. Maybe you do. But you heard me describe these things already. So that's the idea we ought to focus on also. But let's begin with this point, separation of concerns. What do I mean by that? It basically boils down to this one idea that I think I already mentioned to you. And that idea was, what is it called? This idea. Oh, why? No. This idea. It is called do one thing, do it well. Make each program do one thing well. That's the concept, like right there in the basics of Unix philosophy as published on various places. So the best place to read that is actually Wikipedia. And the concept is, where's the philosophy? Do one thing. Well, that's the idea. Let's do one thing, do it well. That's the concept. So with that in mind, what we are doing is doing everything in one box. We are running our Linux machine, the LAMP stack, and running our database, and running our WordPress, all here. Why? That doesn't fit into the idea of thinking like do one thing, do it well. In fact, there are two distinct things here. There is this thing called the application, WordPress, and there is this thing called the database, called MySQL. And so that's two distinctly different things. And we are mixing them in one box. That's a bad idea. So I just told you about everything up until now was a bad idea. And so that's okay. But the underlying concept is that you want to separate web server and application server and database server separate. The underlying concept is do one thing, do it well. So you want to create two boxes now. In one box, you will run your application, which happens to be WordPress. And in the other box, you will run your database server. And that server will run MySQL software. And so with that idea in hand, what you also need to understand is that this WordPress thing will ask you a question about, what is the name of the database? What is the name of the user? What is the name of the password? And where is the database server running? Location. You need to have these things in hand. And we are going to run this database server on a different machine, by the way, not here, but here. And you will have a password and a user and the database name, which you already understand. The complexity with MySQL is that the user permissions are tied to the location. That means, just understand this. It's kind of, if you're new to MySQL, you will not understand what I'm talking about unless you pay attention to what I'm going to say next. If you know MySQL, you already know this. But if you're not, which I'm assuming you never used MySQL, maybe you do. I don't know. You tell me. So the assumption is that you don't have used MySQL in the past, which is fine. But the idea of permissions in MySQL is clumsy, to say the least. In that if you have a user, let's call it U user with a password called P. That's just for simplicity. So if you have a user U with a password P, the user permissions are tied to the machine location or the location of the user. It is tied to the location of the user. So if the user is defined as @localhost, so the user definition is basically defined as U @localhost. But if this U is sitting on some other IP address, let's say, for example, this U user is here, and if the U user wants to type the password P and connect to this machine to get to this database, then that user is not here, not the U @localhost, but U at this machine. So this is not U @localhost, but it is U at some other machine. So this permission needs to be explicitly provided. This permission by itself to have this user U to have the user U @localhost, if you grant that permission, it doesn't automatically transfer to some other IP address, some other box with the same username and password combination. It doesn't automatically transfer. You have to explicitly allocate that permission structure. That's the nature of MySQL, and actually thinking about it, it's a good idea from a security standpoint. You have to explicitly allow permissions for this user to come from some other machine, not right here, but from some other machine. The user is coming from here and trying to log into the database. Please allow. That allow permission has to be explicitly made. If you don't do that, it will fail. WordPress will not be able to access the database, even if it knows the correct username and password, still fail. The reason it fails is right there in our script. Is in our script that if you remember and recall from the previous, where is that? Next, the previous, yeah. One more previous, I guess. Yeah, one more previous. And yeah, in this script, you will see that we are referring to granting permissions, like right there. These two steps of granting permissions are associated with localhost reference. So we are granting the user called U with a password called P @localhost. And that permission is tied and associated with the localhost machine. So we need to take care of that. We need to fix that basically in order for this other machine from other location, like the WordPress application server running WordPress, that machine needs to be able to get to this database and grab the username and password P, but it is not on this machine. The user is tied to this machine. The access request is coming from another location. So from a security standpoint, it is a good idea to explicitly grant permissions and privileges coming from another machine. Only then it will allow, MySQL will allow access to other people, other machines to come and connect and get access to the database. That has to be explicitly done. In here, we haven't done it. So we'll do it now. What I'll go is I'll close this annotations, and then I'll go forward to where I was on the separation of concerns idea. And so here is your separation of concerns idea coming up right there. So what are we doing in this section? Is to modify the script a little bit. You will notice the modification of the script actually pertains to the idea which I mentioned is right there. You see the percent sign here and the percent sign there. This percent sign is basically, if you have a database here, MySQL, or rather there, MySQL here, you want to connect to this machine from any computer, any other computer, like this one, that one, that one. Each of these machines will be able to connect to that and even more. You want to have all these machines out here to be able to successfully connect to this this MySQL database with a username U and password P. You need to generalize this permission structure to connect from any location. You put a wildcard entry basically there. And the wildcard entry in MySQL syntax is denoted by a percent sign. And that is what you're looking at here and here. This percent sign and this percent sign. That's a change you need to do to allow permission from other machines to connect to this database. Without this, your separation will not work. That's the hard part in this idea. You have to understand that MySQL server behaves like this. Actually, it's a good thing. You also need to change a couple things. For example, you need to modify your role. And you need to, let me describe this a little better. Yeah. Let's go back to here. So the way you describe this is like this. We've been talking about this thing called LAMP. And we put all of that in a machine. This is how we put Linux, Apache, MySQL, and in MySQL we had a database, user and password in there. And we need PHP and WordPress and all that. But all of these were one box. What I want to now do is separate boxes like this. I will have two boxes, both running Linux. But my question to you is, should I have both running Apache? Apache here and Apache here. Is that a good idea? I'm separating my concerns between application server and web server. Oh, sorry, database server. I want to run WordPress here and MySQL here. Should I install Apache here and here? This Apache.
Wouldn't Apache just go on the app server?
Correct. Exactly. So the Apache needs to go only here, not here. Okay, what about MySQL? Should I install MySQL on both here and here? This one.
Just on the MySQL box.
Yes, exactly. So this should install only on the database server, this box, MySQL. Okay, what about WordPress application? It needs to go here. What about these guys? It needs to be created with this here, right? So we handle that. We handle this. We handle this also, and this, and both are Linux boxes. So we already understand that. But what about this? Should it be installed here and here?
I actually forget what PHP is for.
PHP is for is the way you write code. So this WordPress code is written in PHP.
I see.
And so this PHP is how you actually write the logic in the application for WordPress. And what Apache does is it integrates with PHP to show you HTML. So whatever you have generated code from WordPress written in PHP will transport it into a HTML and show you in the web browser, dynamic HTML. What this Apache software, what this WordPress software also does is that it uses the PHP client library for MySQL and use the username U and password P on any machine wherever it runs, %, to connect to the database server. And so it needs a PHP client. So PHP is absolutely needed here.
Mm-hmm.
And PHP is also needed here for the client portion of PHP to actually communicate with MySQL and get the data back and then present it to this guy so that this machine can then show it to Apache, to the user. That's the underlying idea. So when from a split perspective, you need to rewrite your stack like you have to have a lap stack and these two machines you need to create. And of course, this section of creating a database and a user and a password needs to be happening on the database itself. So this is your database server. This is your app server. And you will put WordPress application right here, not here. That's the new 2 boxes. We'll need to get 2 boxes, which means we need to run that command twice, which means in our Scratch, we'll have 2 instructions, one to create this box, one to create this box. So we need to understand how do you create this box different from this box, and there will be 2 different command line items that we need to create. So let's go look. What do we need to have? So we'll first of all have to modify our role in the database master role file. Like here, we have our roles, and this is our database master role. What we need to do in this role is to make sure that we get our PHP included in this database. We need PHP added like this. By the way, this thing is here already. We have our PHP and mod SQL PHP already in the web server RB. We want to grab them and put them in the database. Oops, close, not save. We need to save them in our database master also. It needs to get PHP and the module to interface with MySQL. So that's what we need to grab after your SQL. You need to add the PHP recipe and the module MySQL recipe in the PHP cookbook. These lines 7 and 8 will allow your database to talk PHP. That's how you should say, database talking PHP, so that you can speak to database in the PHP language as opposed to its native MySQL client language. You want your application talks PHP, your application is written in PHP, your application will request in PHP, and therefore these two lines 7 and 8 are necessary. Next, what we want to do is that we will also change our web server role a little bit. In that, you will notice that we are setting up our we already took care of that. In fact, this write-up on the website is a little bit different. The way I did it was that I already moved it here, right? This DB user default is already moved in the DB master file. We did that at the very beginning, so we don't have to do this step because it is already removed from the web server role. At the very beginning, I already incorporated that. And that is what already taken care of. Now that we have modified our role, web server role did not modify. This line doesn't have this DB user default to begin with. There is no change here in the DB in the web server at all. We have added line number 7 and 8 in the database role. We need to give these two roles to the chef server. We'll say, hey, chef server, I got new roles for you. Take it. Take all the roles I got. So it should take all the roles and just dump it there in the chef server. So now chef server has our roles. In this, I'm doing it one at a time. I just did the asterisk wildcard, and then it does all the roles at one time. It's a different way of handling. What I want to now do is modify the DB user cookbook a little bit. In our cookbook here, we have our site cookbook for the database user, in which we have our recipe that invokes the install dbuser.sh file here. We want to change that install dbuser.sh file a little bit. And what we want to change is this %sign. That's what I want to copy and grab it, this localhost thing, and make it %. Similarly, one more place, we're going to go and change this localhost into %. Two places, line number 38 and line 36. And remember, we are not doing on this one, not. This is the way we are identifying a password on the local machine, on the local host machine. We're doing it only this and this, two places. We're changing that. And then we save our script and close it. Now that this cookbook called DB user is updated, we need to let our chef server know that we got a new cookbook for you. So we'll say, hello, type bundle exec knife. Just send all the cookbook there. So it is sending. I think I just probably made a mistake in mixing up the other machine that I was doing like a couple of minutes ago, and I deleted the books and I sent the books or not, I don't remember. So I think it's just a good idea to delete all the books and then send them fresh. So I'm breaking it, bundle exec knife cookbook bulk delete everything that I got. And the pattern is a regular expression called dot star. So basically it catches the regular expression, rejects, and deletes all the books. And it deleted all the books. Then I will send all the books up. It will receive all the books from my current collection. And then we need to write two different commands carefully, and carefully look at or pay attention to the run list idea. Run list. which is what I will focus on, is the idea that we have, because we have slightly modified our run list and we want to have two different machines with two different DNA. One to grow up to become a application server, and the other to grow up to become a database server. So two different DNA injections. And those DNA injections are different run list right there. This is your application server, by the way, web app server. And this one is your database server. So let's go take a look carefully. Copy the database idea first. So put that back in our README file. And at the bottom of this segment, we have the DigitalOcean segment. And below that, I will just paste this new idea, which is your application server. And the next new idea, which is your, database server. So those two that I'm doing, copying from here, and they're very similar to the other ones, except there are some changes. I'll point out those changes right now for you. So this is your database server, and this one is your app server. Let's go look at the changes now. So what did we change? Let's see. First thing first, the key has to be copied over. The key we got from the earlier runs, we put that here in our your SSH key ID segment in two different places and paste. Then we pay attention to our SFO location. We have it SFO1 here, which is probably occupied. And this should be SFO2. So it's taken care of. Now, understand what we have here. Our run list for the application server contains no reference to the database section at all. No reference to the database role at all. In the database server creation step, we have no reference to the application server, web server role at all, which is how we are making these two boxes different. This is your application server creation step. This is your database server creation step. Two different ideas in two different commands with slightly different DNA injection. So in the window up here, I will now start an application server. Before that, to reduce confusion, I will go and kill any machines I might have there. Where am I going? DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean, I need to log into Gmail first. And so I can see it and then make modifications to whatever I have. And why is Gmail taking so long to load? Is Google down or what? Huh. It shouldn't take that long for Gmail to load. That's lame. Okay, different browser. Gmail, I want you to log in with this email address, please. That's what I want. Please log in and go to DigitalOcean. I hope I logged in. And then log in. Okay, so I am on DigitalOcean. I don't have any droplets. Nice, clean droplets. Now I will run the application server creation step. Copy. If you're automating these steps, you should actually create the database server first. So I should do that way then. Copy the database server creation step first and run it. Paste and let the database server create. So it's going to create now. You will see in that window. In the other window, what I will do is run another. And in this window, I will create an application server like this.
Hey, Nilesh.
Yes.
I might have missed it, but why are the server names the same for app server and DB server?
Oh, good catch. It should not be.
Oh, okay.
Good catch.
Gotcha.
It should not be. It should
Okay.
not. That's a timely catch, by the way. Thank you. I would have made a mistake copying blindly and pasting. So that's a good thing you caught it, because yeah, it would have it would have actually caused trouble. It would have overwritten the other entry, and that would have been bad. So good catch. And let us now run the application server creation in this window. Go. Okay, let it run. It's so easy now once you have it taken care of. Doing next steps are very easy. And you will see what it does when it does. If it fails, you will see that. But you will actually see it happening. Or rather, see it failing. Whatever happens, we'll find out. So on the other window, let's see what DigitalOcean is doing. DigitalOcean probably has two droplets by now. There we are. Those two machines are ready, or rather, getting ready. And in the other window, these guys are busy doing their stuff. You will notice that this, they don't have, they have different DNA. They have different purpose in life. They have different desired state configuration. They have different run list. So they'll do different things. For example, this guy is doing database stuff, and this guy is going to do the Apache stuff, this guy. So the database portions are happening on the right side, and Apache stuff is happening on the left side, but PHP is happening on both. So the database apparently is finished successfully, which is good. So we can actually go there in that machine. So copy and connect to that machine, say SSH, and we are on that machine, and there we'll say, hello, do you have MySQL server there? What's it called? PS? No, PS-EF. And then grep for MySQL. Then we have it running there. This dude. So we'll connect to it using the MySQL client software with a username called, what's it called? Root. And the password is provided on the next step. And I will type the password 1, 2, 3, and I should connect. There we go. Now this situation we have access to, so we'll say show database. And here you will find there is a database called WordPress already created. Sweet. Now we'll exit. This time I will now connect to that database again, MySQL, with a username called username and a password called password. And I should get access to the database. And I did. Show databases. And I get the WordPress database only visible to me. Only this database visible to me because I logged in as the username, and password. And so the database called WordPress is visible to me. So I quit, and I now log in as root with password 1, 2, 3. And I show databases, and I see all of them. I see the WordPress database, and I also see the performance schema and the MySQL database and the information schema. That's available to me here also. But this dude is the username, password, and he or she gets access to, it's not a he or she, it's the thing. The thing get access to WordPress database, whereas this is the root thing, and it get access to all the databases in your database server called MySQL server. With this understanding, we'll exit from here and never visit the database again, because I just went there to see. Now there is no need to go there. So I quit from the command line. I'm now on the other window where I have another successful run of the chef in chef command. We see some success report. And so what I want to now do is grab the IP address of this box right here and copy it and then connect to it. So I'm getting connected. There I see that I have my Apache running. What did I type? No, hold on. I need to adjust this. When I type versus when I write are two different things. I need to adjust this a little bit. Okay, do it again. I am looking for my Apache server and I find it. No, because I made a typo. No, what just happened? Not running? Something wrong. Something went wrong or what? Huh. Something is probably wrong. It should run, but it is not, which is crazy. So we will run we'll run our chef client one more time to see what happens. It should either fail or tell us that it succeeded. It is doing some things, which is basically it is doing nothing currently, but there is an error. What is that error? Why is it installing DB user again? I think we must have made a mistake somewhere. In our web server role, do we have DB user? No, I don't. Okay. But it is running install DB user without me asking it to do, which means our role is wrong. Which means we need to send our role to the chef server. That's the problem right there. So I think we did not send this role to the chef server or something like that. So it means I need to send it again. So I will come out of here and say, hello, chef server, please get my bundle exec knife role from file roles web server. Take my role, okay, and then connect to the machine and then run chef again. It is still doing that. Something is broken. I think I need to, the easiest workaround is to just kill the machine and move again and create a new one. So I will do that. And what I'll do is I'll instantiate a new oh, you know what? There is a mistake right there. I should not have that thing there. It should be why am I invoking the DB master role in the app server? It's a copy and paste error. Okay, this should be web server. So like this is DB master. This is also DB master. That is bad form. Bad Nilesh. Okay. Bad Nilesh. So where is the right one? Come on, Firefox browser. Show me the right thing to do is right there. And here we have the DB master for the DB server. And we have the role called web server, which I did not copy properly. That is silly. So I should put that like this. And then invoke another instance and kill the other one, kill the other machine. So that was a mistake in the way command was written. So we'll run another one. It will create a new machine and use the same name app server, which is fine. I have to just say yes to it. It'll ask me that yes or no question, and I'll say yes, and it will proceed. And this time, as you know, we have a correct role defined. It was trying to install database on a machine meant to be an Apache web server, and therefore you don't find Apache. But we had two database servers apparently. That's what it meant boiled down to. And so this thing is going to instantiate a new droplet, which is what you will see in your DigitalOcean window. we have a new droplet popping up. That one will be called an app server. And this one is the old droplet. This second one, the 10 minutes ago droplet, I need to delete that because that is not an app server, but it's actually a second database server. So we confirm that kill. And then we go back here. And this is the new app server with the IP address. And this one should correctly work because I hope I did not make another mistake this time. So it is waiting for me, yes or no. I'll say yes, please use the same name, app server, and it will overwrite. And it did. And now it will proceed through installing a Apache web server, which is what we will now wait for it to finish. And then we should just visit WordPress. We ran out of time today, but don't worry, I'll finish this off quickly. What I want to show you is the actual connection between these two boxes, and that should take a minute more, and then we can hang up. So let this finish, and then I will grab the ideas from here. And what I will see is that I need to have this IP address copied, which is the app server, which I need to open up in this window. And so on the right side, you will see the app server coming up. And on this window, you have both these IP addresses saved on DigitalOcean. You have that already. As soon as the action finishes, install this action. The install action on that box, the new real app server box. As soon as that thing finishes, I should be able to visit this window. In that window, the IP address right there, and that should pop up WordPress. But then there are subtleties to look at and pay attention to once that thing is ready, which is what I will now show you as soon as this action finishes, which should be in next minute or so. And then the actual action of connecting these two together. As you can see, this thing is actually installing Apache server this time, which it did not in the earlier time. And Apache has succeeded. So now let us go connect to it and verify. So here is our connection. And we'll check whether we have Apache running. And it is running. Nice. Now that it's running, we'll go here and open to see WordPress right there. And next, continue. And next, let's go. But here you wait and think, what is the database host again? Is it the local host? No, it is not. Database is not running on this box, not on this IP address. It is definitely not on this machine. So where is it? Database is not here. So this IP address is not localhost. So what should I put there? Yes, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. But this is wrong. It is not localhost. So what should I put there?
Do you put the IP of the database server?
Yes. Yep. Exactly right. So I'll grab this from here and put it right there. That's the most important idea here. That's I think in this connection establishment between the two machines. That's the key idea. Is that you have to go and point to the database host, which is not this box, but the other box. And then you submit. It succeeds. It connects to the database server and says, all right, Sparky, you made it through, and I go proceed, and boom, boom, everything is done. And I'm not finishing up this form because it's like kind of stupid. It's not stupid, but it is, you already know. So I'm skipping that portion. And I am, basically summarizing it like this, that we created two different machines, and we had this machine connect to this machine by incorporating the underlying concept, which, we use this IP address as opposed to localhost for the database server, which is what it is. It is a database server. And so it then connects using PHP client to connect to this database and accesses the WordPress database in the database server with a username called username, password called pass, and this username is actually sitting on this IP address, and that is the percent notation, which allows it permissions to connect. That's why you see the all right Sparky method or message, which allows, basically it shows success. And that's what you see. This is all right Sparky basically means this machine, the application server, was successfully able to connect to this IP address using these credentials while sitting on this IP address. So username at this is able to connect to this server on this database. And that's the submit action succeeding. And with this, I will stop recording. And questions are welcome.